This is Asake Online. Welcome to Agriculture On Cite, a program where we profile all actors who make agriculture and farming their business. Livestock farmers need to take proactive action to actually protect their livestock, especially during natural disasters such as droughts. This follows the El Niño-induced drought which swept across Southern Africa region, leaving farmers unable to protect their livestock. In Zimbabwe, the Ministry of Agriculture launched a number of initiatives to help the livestock sector recover. The Department of Livestock Production and Development recently convened a livestock stakeholder meeting in Matabeleland, where the government actually explained the number of initiatives it has actually taken under the National Drought Mitigation Plan to help the livestock sector. Let us listen in on the government update on the initiatives that it has actually taken to help support the development of the livestock sector in Zimbabwe.
We are emerging from the west, one of the worst El Niño-induced drought seasons that we experienced in the drought season of 2023 up to 2024, which was a very harsh time for most of us, for most farmers. In more than 40 years. It hadn't been experienced in more than 40 years in Southern Africa. It is the Ministry of Lands and Agriculture and in the Department of Livestock Production. We want to continue to urge farmers to plan ahead for their livestock in order to alleviate future droughts and lean seasons, because we all know the dry season will surely come. So we need to be prepared in the event we face such a drought as the one we faced last year. How do we do all that? How do we achieve all that? We achieve this by ensuring animals have adequate drinking water. We also have to make sure that our feed and fodder nutrition security for the dry season and future droughts, which are of course as a result of the climate change that we all know is for sure, and that continues to affect livestock production and productivity. There is therefore a serious need for creating reliable feed reserves through preserving crop residues, planting pastures, hay baling, and value addition of stover, such as urea treatment of stover, and also making efforts of making silage in order to preserve. What we are about is preserving the national herd of the country. The last season, which is 2023, the last but one, I would say, saw 9,941 cattle succumbing to drought. The figures for this last year, which is 2023-24 season, I think they are estimated at above 16,000 cattle died due to the drought, to the lean season. We are expecting, and then from the CLAFA of last year, the second CLAFA, we had about 3 million cattle that were estimated to be at risk, and mainly in the southern regions, which is Matabeleland South, Matabeleland North, Midlands, and Masvingo. And of these 3 million cattle which were at risk, 1.5 million were actually at higher risk, which is about half the number. Then the government then embarked on a lot of strategies, a myriad of strategies, to mitigate the effects of the drought.
For the drought mitigation, before I go into the livestock growth plan, the measures that were put into place by government were meant to save the herd that we have. And it is good that we have all the stakeholders here so that we also pull in the same direction with regards to our programming. The silage that Madam was talking about is to do with alleviating or making sure that our dairy cattle have got feed. you would realize that for the past season, we ended up buying feed as government for maize silage from a private player, which we also see that we have a number of private players here. We had to purchase, it must be around 15,000 metric tons, right? Yeah, for maize silage, so that we also save our head. And we were able to get to around 9,600 metric tons of maize silage that we managed to distribute to all the 4 provinces, that is Matabeleland North, Matabeleland South, Midlands, and Masvingo, the southern provinces that were in dear need of feed. Safe to say, we also feeding around 2 kgs per day for our livestock, and this actually saved a lot in with regards to saving the head that we had before the rains did come. This is what drought mitigation centers. A director alluded to the fact that the president declared a drought on the 5th of April 2024, and the ministry came in again and also had to avail what we call the drought response strategy. The drought response strategy was enacted on the 9th of August, is it, Madam? 9th of August 2024, in response to the El Niño the El Niño induced drought that we had. That's where we had the selection or identification of these words that were very critical. That we had the 1.5 million cattle that the director talked about. So there was an identification of 635 words, the whole country, that were identified in region 4 and 5 to make sure that we actually have a directed or a programmed way of approaching our livestock in terms of saving them. And you would see that Matabeleland North had around 129 wards that were identified, and that is what we are currently doing right now in terms of making sure that all these are covered with what drought mitigation centers. And these are the same wards as well where most of the feed was actually sent. That is in Umguza was part of it, Wange, Lupane, you name it. Some of the districts that were identified so that we continue to mitigate against the El Niño induced drought. So the government is also went on further to say we are not going to stop there, that we had a drought, so we are stopping it, like we are not going to do anything anymore. So the 635 are still on course, where there is the drilling of bores in these wards, and then a 1 hectare nutritional garden. We also have watering traps, feeding traps in these very centers. Why I'm saying so is that since we have stakeholders here, we're also looking forward to them being part of this programming, to say if we are fishing from the pond, we were talking about it earlier. If we are in abattoir, we are also buying cattle from these farmers. Why not also drill a bore in their areas so that they also have water for their livestock, rather than to wait until it is a bit dear. So the programming is on paper, and the words have been identified for all the provinces in the country. So we would need also to play a part in that. For the livestock recovery and growth plan, it is anchored on issues to do with nutrition, that is improved animal nutrition, where there is need for development of a green pasture belt, where we are saying along the river channels, along the streams, we need to have irrigated pastures for our livestock. In some areas, we've been doing it. The case in point, we have what we call in Masvingo, Lapache, to those who know Masvingo. Lapache irrigation scheme. It is just by Menezi River. They are doing roads reclaimer grass. These are smallholder farmers. They have identified that we are in region 4 and we are in region 5. So instead of us focusing on crops, let us focus on our livestock. They are actually baling their hay from there, and the roads reclaimer has got a CP content of around 12% CP, if my memory serves me well. So with that kind of programming, we can go far in terms of our programming.
Update on, in particular, the notifiable diseases. Foot and mouth, we've had a relatively quiet year, thankfully, and I think our last foot and mouth cases in the province, Matabeleland North, were in July last year, and that was in Bobi district around Kenilworth Deep Tank. And happy to say that that has been resolved, and we haven't had any cases since. At the moment, the department's thrust at the moment is on intensifying tick control, because in particular, because for Mat North we had not had a January disease in the way that it had affected other provinces in the country, but we have had a few cases now in Bobi district, in particular around Alfalfa Deep Tank, and so it's Alfalfa Deep Tank, Lukona Deep Tank, and Sibomvu Deep Tank, where we've had a few losses, but we have started implementing the 554 dipping regime in the district. And we want to also take this chance to just encourage farmers to please cooperate with the dipping fees payments, as the war against January disease, our major strategy involves tick control, which is the vector of the disease, as well as implementation of January disease vaccination. The vaccine will be availed soon, but before we have it, we want to encourage farmers to help the department by paying their dipping fees, so that we can implement a homogeneous dipping program, so that we do not have pockets of outbreaks in the province or in the districts.
We have had an update from the government, various government departments, on the initiatives that government has taken to help farmers manage the impact of the drought, but also on what the programs that they have laid out in place for farmers to support the development of the livestock sector. This is Asake Online. Remember to follow us on our various social media platforms on Cite ZW.